Over the last 2 years, we've seen a clear stabilisation of our public finances and many positive events signalling our economic recovery. And it has to be said that getting to this point has not been easy, and it has required great efforts by the vast majority of citizens in the country, and has affected almost every aspect of Irish life. It is sad and disheartening to see some public commentators practically hoping that things would go wrong for whatever reason, that they can say that they were proven right or for political benefit. The focus of government has been on the negative, or the focus of those has been on the negative, with little attention on the positive developments which has been crucial to restoring this country. And it's time to remember some of the positive developments that we have seen, including the promissory note deal, which removed the onerous and overbearing annual €3.1 billion repayment requirement and significantly reduced the amount that our country has to repay. The fulfilment of government's commitment to protect the weekly social welfare rate and leave income tax rates unchanged. Political reform, including reductions to ministerial and TD salaries, allowances, and an injection of transparency with the abolition of unvouched expenses. €2.5 billion investment in job creation measures, including the first ever coordinated measured action plan for jobs, which we will hope to continue to deliver real results. Protecting the vulnerable by restoring the minimum wage and exempting 330,000 people from the USC, and the creation of the Department of Public Expenditure and Reform, the government department which is focused on maximising the effectiveness and efficiency of the public services in the history of the state. Well, that last point is important because an inescapable fact is that 35% of government spending is on the public sector pensions and pay bill. And during the so-called good times, the private sector, through companies and paying a variety of taxes, were able to support the increase of pay in the public sector, as well as growing public sector pension costs. Today, however, we have a private sector which is slowly recovering from the worst global economic crash in living memory, and many private sector workers have found themselves, through no fault of their own, out of work and dependent, often for the first time, on social welfare. And that is an interesting point, one that appears to be forgotten by many. If a company in the private sector experiences economic or financial difficulties, it must take decisive action to reduce costs in the hope that the viability of the company can be secured. And in many cases, this involves payroll reductions for the simple reason that payroll is often a company's largest cost. The same notion must apply to the public sector. The public sector does not operate in a vacuum. Unfortunately, despite the efforts of all of us to play a part in the restoration of the state's finances, the state is continuing to have to borrow €1 billion approximately per month to meet the shortfall between revenue and expenditure.
Thank
you, Last Concord. It is simply inconceivable to think that as a government is obliged to close and eliminate the deficit, that one of our largest sources of expenditure would be sacrosanct and remain untouched. The bill before us in the House today is twofold. Firstly, it introduces the legislation which will permit changes to the level of remuneration in the public sector, which, as I have previously stated, is necessary for it to successfully complete our economic recovery. And secondly, and most importantly, however, it is necessary to prevent such measures from applying to public sector workers and unions who sign up to the Public Sector Stability Agreement or the Haddington Road Agreement. This agreement is the result of the Trojan efforts on part of Minister Howland, government representatives in the Union of Public Sector Workers, and overseen by the Chairman of the LRC, Kieran Mulvey. Very little in life is ever achieved by descending into conjecture and argument, or by simply refusing to enter into dialogue. And this agreement is proof of the benefit of staying at the table, of listening to viewpoints, of acknowledging problems, of considering workable solutions, and of respectfully negotiating. And everyone involved in this process deserves to be commended for their dedication and commitment to the process.